What happens when a world-class nutritionist uses blood panels, cellular biology, and fact-based science to create and monitor healthy eating plans with supplements for her clients? Everyone wins. Welcome to Power on Your Plate with Haylie Pomroy, an educational experience that gives you both the actionable and practical tools you can use every day to get your health, weight, and life back on track.
I am Haylie Pomroy, and I am your nutritionist. And this morning, I wanted to start a Q&A session, a question and answer session. I have lots of questions. You guys have to have all the answers. Just kidding. You guys have posted questions, and I hope to have some great answers for you, or at least we can work through these things together. I have my shake, I have my water, I have all my books this morning. And as many of you know, we have a very active member site, our private member community. And in that community, our team likes to answer all of your questions. I like to jump on and answer your questions. Our team meets collectively once a week, and some questions that maybe I missed and they can't get answers to, we talk about those and get you more answers. Sometimes we write blog posts about them because your questions are so fascinating, or there are things that we feel like could really help this beautiful and amazing community. So let's get right to it today. I know all of you have set aside some time this morning for yourselves and for us together. And so I want to make sure that we get your questions answered. So Krista and Jenny from our community had a really great question. And they said, are there any additional suggestions for losing menopause-based weight gain? So depending on which philosophy of medicine you look at, we'll go through that a little bit. Menopause is when the ovaries start to, we have an elevation in FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, which comes actually from our pituitary, and it tries to drive the ovaries to finish ovulating as well as start to shut down. So we stop the ovulation process, or the ovulation process becomes less effective. We become less fertile. And as we're going through perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause, there are different metabolic pathways that slow down, that stimulate estrogen production in other areas of our bodies. And one area of our body that is quite efficient at producing estrogens, not always the most healthy version of estrogen, but is our adipocytes, or what we call our fat. And so what a lot of us don't always recognize or really embrace is that our fat, as we carry on our body, is important to carry nutrients, to carry, to hold reserve energy, to buffer our organs from damage. But when we get a proliferation or a buildup of fat, it can actually create an imbalance in not just the scale, but in our hormones. And so we have to look at fat for what it is. It is an accessory gland, an organ, a gland that secretes hormones, inulin, leptin, but the estrogens. So oftentimes, if we go through menopause and we don't stay in balance, we do gain weight, and it's really fluffy weight, a lot of midsection weight, sometimes a lot of bra fat weight. And so ways to support that is to support the metabolic pathways of fat storage. Very specifically, we look a lot at the liver. So we look a lot at phase 2 of the fast metabolism diet being a very important one. So sometimes 1 week every other month with my clients that are going through menopause, we will incorporate a phase 1 intensive during the fast metabolism diet. The other thing that we do is sometimes we take phase 3, which is a lot about hormones, right? And we will do one of two options. We'll do the H burn during the last 3 days of the week. So phase 1, Monday, Tuesday. Phase 2, Wednesday, Thursday. See if I can get my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Phase 3, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We will do an H burn. And then even sometimes with my clients that are really struggling to create homeostasis during menopause, we will do a 3-day soup cleanse or a 3-day fast metabolism cleanse, where we do phase 1, phase 2, and then 3 days of 5 shakes a day. So those are all little things that you can incorporate with modifying the food and food style that you eat. From a nutraceutical perspective, Metabolism DIM has been very, very, very supportive for my clients going through any hormone transition, and Metabolism fatty acids. Those two are really, really good at preventing the weight gain and helping you through this process of unleashing potential weight gain. If you have found, which some of my clients come to me and they've gained 20 to 40 pounds during this transition, they don't recognize their body, things have really changed, it's become extremely easy to gain weight, very hard to lose weight. We have two boosters. One is Fat Blaster and one is Bye Bye Belly Fat. The Fat Blaster helps a little bit more when you have that hard fat and you're stuck in a plateau. The Bye Bye Belly Fat happens when you're in a weight gain or it's really easy to gain weight. It's got a lot of the hormone support in it. So what I'll have my clients do is I'll have them rotate 30 days on one and then 30 days on the other. If they're doing Metabolism Revolution, which is whole nother food plan, and we're working on really tightening up, defining collagen, elastin, we need to shake up a lot of adrenal when individuals have had a lot of stress. We'll add in the Metabolism Revolution and the Fat Blaster. Those seem to go really well together when we're dealing with hormone-based weight gain. I know you're gonna say, wait a minute, Haylie, but the Bye Bye Belly Fat has the DIM in it. Yes, when you're dealing with hormone-based weight gain, that works really well with the fast metabolism diet and the metabolism cleanse. So lots of information in there. Things that I want you to check is, check your pH, your 7-day pH. The digestive reserve is a good one too, but when you're dealing with menopause, we look at the 7-day pH. That gives us a lot of indication of what the body's ecosystem is doing with inflammatory, pro and anti-inflammatory hormones. So I'm gonna distill it down just a little bit. When the ovaries start to go dormant, the body depends on fat metabolism even more. If it's out of balance, specifically around how the liver metabolizes fats and cleaves it into the master hormone, we will build fat. So we wanna really focus on that. So tips, add a phase 2 intensive, maybe once a month. Try once a month, maybe doing 3 days of 5 shakes a day with the 10-day cleanse or the metabolism shake during phase 3 of the fast metabolism diet. Try adding the H burn for 3 days during the last 3 days of the fast metabolism diet. And if you do the Metabolism Revolution, which is really great to add 14 days of that in there, add Fat Blaster with it. If you really feel like you're in a weight gain trajectory, like it's so easy, maybe margarita falls in your mouth and boom, you're up 3 pounds on Monday, Metabolism Bye Bye Belly Fat is really good for that. So hope that helps, and let's get to our next question. Okay, we have a couple of individuals so this is a collective question from our private community. LDLs, HDLs, and triglycerides. How do I get those into balance? So LDLs has all to do with lipids in the body, okay? So LDLs are what we call low down dirty lipoprotein. They're actually low density lipoprotein, but the way I remember it is those are the bad fats that can cause heart disease, and coupled with inflammation can cause blockage of arteries. The HDLs, handy dandy lipoproteins, remember those are the good ones, those actually help bind the bad lipids and bring them to be metabolized. So we want those high, we want the HDLs high, and the LDLs, we want those numbers to be low. And then we have the third component that we're looking at in this question, which is what's called triglycerides, which is actually 3 sugars and a fat. So let's talk about, metabolic pathways. So you guys are on the 10-day cleanse. That is the perfect thing to be doing when you're trying to create homeostasis in your lipids. And we talk a lot about this when we teach about the nutrients in the cleanse. We teach about the metabolic pathways that the 10-day cleanse is specifically nurturing, which is to take lipids, primarily cholesterol, and convert it into those master hormones, right? But I want to talk about those a little bit individually. So triglycerides, it's really important that you are able to cleave your sugars and your lipids. And so individuals And triglycerides, in my opinion, have a higher cardiovascular risk, have a higher risk with vision issues, definitely memory and cognition issues. We want to keep those numbers really nice and juicy. Do your digestive reserve testing, because it's the enzymes in the body that help you cleave those triglyceride molecules and make them like the magic that they can be for your metabolism if you're breaking them down. So think of them like carbs, right? So many people diet and they're afraid of carbs. Carbs are so good for you as long as you can metabolize them. So triglycerides are so good for you as long as you can metabolize them. So if you're having an issue with triglycerides, I want you to go and download the digestive reserve test. I want you to test the digestive reserve and look at the suggestions. Also watch our video this week on that. From a supplement perspective, the two that are magical, in my opinion, in our clinic, and we check labs and retest labs, and there's a lot of pressure to get it right because we have amazing doctors that send us clients. The fatty acids, metabolism fatty acids, and metabolism enzymes. Those seem to make the biggest difference in the lipids. When we're talking about LDLs, the low down dirty lipoproteins, the bad lipoproteins, if you have those high, which can sometimes drive your total cholesterol high, again, we really want to look at how the body's metabolizing cholesterol. So we want to look at folic acid metabolism, and we want to look at B12 nutrients, and we want to look at liver support. So the ultimate liver support is probably in the 10-day cleanse and the metabolism shake. The next one would be in the phase 2 shake. So for example, I have clients that maybe aren't on a program or they're off plan right now, but they still do the metabolism shake in the morning and at 4 o'clock. And we are able to work really well with those nutrients to repair the metabolism, the metabolic pathways that will elevate LDL. The other thing that we look at is if you're going in to see your doc, especially if you have elevated B vitamins, you want to ask them to check. You can even order it online for what they call MTFHR, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. What that means is that you don't have an enzyme that cleaves folic acid really efficiently. So you want to make sure that you're using either our multivitamin, which I think is I know is the very best on the planet, or one that has a methylated folic acid. We have found that if you can supplement with a methylated folic acid, that allows the body to efficiently metabolize the LDLs and drive that number down really efficiently. So if you have high LDLs and you didn't just have bacon right before your test, so 24 hours before your test, a bunch of it, it's kind of like there's something in how you metabolize it that you're not accessing that gold, which we call cholesterol. So again, and Ann Flats, we did the request for care, and then I just saw a follow-up question. It'd be really good to see if you're methylating your B vitamins efficiently. If not, I have the genetic SNP, I don't do that, so I have always used a methylated folic acid, which is why we get ours out of Milan, Italy, and we get our Bs out of Spain, because it's very difficult to get a clean source of methylated B vitamins, methylated folic acid in the United States. So let's talk to HDL just for a second. Those are the handy dandy lipoproteins. Those are the ones that help with libido and sex drive and feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and excited about life. They are really mood elevating when they're in a nice, juicy, healthy level. So we want our HDLs to be high. Also make sure that when you're communicating with your practitioner, if you have high cholesterol but a high HDL, that's part of that calculation. So don't let them accidentally think that a total cholesterol being high is a bad thing, because it could be that your HDLs are just nice and high. So metabolism fatty acids, again, phenomenal for elevated HDLs. HDLs are produced in the liver, so we want to do lots of liver nurturing. We have, a ton of suggestions on the website for the liver, but again, think the 10-day cleanse, think phase 2. I know everybody's favorite phase on the fast metabolism diet. And also in Food RX book, we have a dedicated section to cholesterol and lipids. And so this specifically, and when you go to our website, you can get the digital download for the cholesterol book. Grab that, it's free, print it out, check it out, see if that's something that you maybe want to incorporate. So I just want you to know that when you get those labs and they say, oh no, you have high total cholesterol or you have high LDL, HDL, triglycerides, what are they? What's going on in your body? And it's not a bad thing. It's just your body communicating through your chemistry, which what a smart body and what fabulous language skills your body has. And we just need to define what it means and what metabolic pathways. So in this book, also in Food RX, remember in the back of each section, we have labs to engage with your practitioner on, but also what those labs mean. So I don't want you to get your labs back and be afraid or be scared or be nervous. I want you to be in awe of your body and its ability to communicate. And sometimes that communication might feel like it's in a foreign language because you're not really savvy yet about your labs, but this book is like a cheat sheet and a guide, and we have a lot of that good stuff on the website too. Okay, let's get to the next question. We got into a nice juicy discussion in our membership section about an individual that had elevated leptin levels and was really, when leptin levels are high, it can be really difficult with weight loss. So one of the things that I had suggested that we engage their practitioner with was checking reverse T3, TPO, and ATA. So I don't want to speak a foreign language. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Let's go over those really quick. So leptin is a hormone, and I'm going to distill it down. There's a lot about leptin, but I'm going to just kind of distill it down really quick. It is part of the hormone feedback loop in the actual adipocyte, the actual fat cell. So remember, it's really good for fat blaster. That's more for the anatomy of the fat cell. And metabolism revolution is really good for the anatomy of the fat cell. Fast metabolism diet and Bye Bye Belly Fit is really good for the physiology of the fat cell, so the hormones of the fat cell. So with leptin, it gives an indication of should the fat cells engorge or should they flatten, and also it has a feedback loop with a lot of the stuff in the brain chemistry that tells us that we're full, satiated, that sugar has been taken up into the cell efficiently and into the mitochondria to be metabolized and given off for energy. So when I said we should check maybe reverse T3, that is a thyroid hormone. So thyroid hormone is primarily secreted, we call it T4. So I'm going to use my fingers here, but we call it T4 because it has 4 iodine molecules attached to it. And our liver converts it into T3, which becomes now active to bind with receptor sites. I can't do this really well, but bind with receptor sites to be uptaken into the cell and burn, right? Burn fat, burn energy, burn fuel. With reverse T3, the bond angle, the iodine is taken from a funny spot. And what happens is your body says, yes, I've got tons of thyroid, I'm good, my TSH maybe is even awesome. However, it doesn't fit into the receptor site. So it doesn't realize its potential as being a metabolism superhero. So you can go in and they say your thyroid's good and everything's cool, and but you're creating this thyroid hormone that is misshapen. So that's why they call it a reverse T3. It's got a reverse bond angle. So that's one really good thing to test. The other thing that I said was TPO, which is thyroid peroxidase, and ATA, which is antithyroid antibody. So again, I'm distilling this down, but the way I like to think of antithyroid antibody is that your body views your own thyroid hormones as a foreign invader, as if you had a virus and you create an antibody, as if you had an infection and you create an antibody. And what an antibody does is it inhibits receptor site, so it inhibits it from realizing its true potential, your thyroid hormones. No, that's horrible. So sometimes, and it is part of an autoimmune response, our body will create an antibody to one or many of the hormones that we secrete. And the thyroid specifically, being the metabolism or metabolic superhero, is not really one that you want to treat as a foreign invader, but it happens. And so it's good to know if that's what your body's doing, because then we want to work on the metabolic pathways that are associated with autoimmunity. And the body attacking a self or hormone as if it were a foreign invader. Back to the reverse T3, that has to do with how the body cleaves the thyroid hormone, and so that's like the metabolism free radicals. We find phenomenal when those are elevated. We also find phase 1 super intensive, and then adrenal repair. Look at those things. Those are really important if we have an elevated reverse T3. And then thyroid peroxidase, or TPO, happens when the body actually goes to the thyroid. Sometimes individuals with elevated thyroid peroxidase will say they have a difficult swallowing. Sometimes they get rashing or welts. Sometimes they get swollen in the thyroid area. They get benign nodules, cold nodules. What happens is it's almost like you have a histamine response on the gland itself. So again, it does fall into that autoimmune category. However, it's a little bit of a different response than the antibody that happens outside into the bloodstream, as opposed to having actual focalized response on the thyroid gland itself. So usually we don't have elevated leptin levels for no reason. There's usually some sort of underlying metabolic pathway that needs to be nurtured, supported, or helped. When I have individuals with thyroid peroxidase, metabolism histamine is phenomenal. Your multi, because of the methylated folic acid in the Bs, is a must with my clients that have that. And the other one is actually metabolism energy. So one of the ways in which, metabolism energy has a lot of what they call bioflavonoids in it, which are naturally anti-inflammatory phytonutrients that actually come from the pith and the peel of citruses that help reduce inflammation, specifically with mast cell production and histamine production. There's also a bioflavonoid called quercetin in it, which helps. There's phenomenal studies on quercetin, bioflavonoids in general, but helping both with histamine and mast cell production. The other one is metabolism-free radicals. It's actually a very powerful antioxidant that has anti-inflammatory support. So what we do is we get those levels when an individual has that, and then we use, in your member section, go and grab your protocol for progress sheet. I know I have all these sheets. We list your numbers and your values. Whenever we create a protocol nutritionally, nutraceutically, it has to have success, right? We don't want to just make all of this amazing effort for not, one, either gaining more information from our body or resolving or supporting something that's going on. So in that, we want to check whatever your values are. If anything's off, we're going to employ a nutritional nutraceutical approach, and then we want to have them rechecked and make sure that they're good. So, funny story, I had a client that came in and they were on a statin drug for high cholesterol. And they had been on it for 6 years and had not had their lipids checked in 6 years. This individual that came in to see me had significant weight loss. We had gotten 30 pounds of weight off, and they had never rechecked the cholesterol. And the same statin drug was given at the same dosage. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. We need to make sure that we check our body and our chemistry, and significant 10% of your body weight reduction is huge. And more than that is even huger when we're talking about hormone fluctuation. It can be as significant as the hormone fluctuation that happens with pregnancy, starting your periods, going through menopause. So remember, we want to look at that and remember that cholesterol is part of hormone metabolism and the thyroid is the hormone superhero. So that's why I bring that up. All right, guys, it looks like we have time for one more question. Anne said that when she started doing the heavy metal detox, she noticed that she was having some bruising, and wanted to know if that was because of a drop maybe in folic acid, vitamin D, potassium, what could potentially be going on. So there's a couple of things that happens when you do heavy metal detox. Remember that metals are fat-soluble toxins, so they store in the fat cells. They also can create a pro-inflammatory response. And if you aren't familiar with our heavy metal detox, on the website, HayliePomroy.com, under education, we have all of our programs on there, so you can go through and get up to speed with what everybody's talking about. We don't just have one program. There's not one size that fits all. Your body is a very dynamic body, having a very biodiverse experience. And my clients have been with me for over 20 years. And so we've had a lot of experiences together. So one that we talk about is doing the heavy metal detox, which we use a chelant that binds with metals and helps shuttle and take that out. Sometimes with a heavy metal detox, there is a process that happens, and I talked a little bit about it when I talked about B vitamins. There is a methylation, a detox process, especially with metal-based toxins, metal, petrochemical, and what am I thinking of? Plastics, parabens. Those can affect your demand for B vitamins. So if we find B vitamins pooling in the bloodstream and our body not uptaking them, sometimes we need to add, a great trick that we use is in the burn book. If you guys have this one too, there is the eye burn. So the foods, and specifically the tea in the eye burn, can really help with B vitamin uptake and help prevent that bruising. Of course, when you go meet with your practitioner, you want to check your B levels. You want to check not just iron, but there's a hormone that's called ferritin, which is produced by the liver that allows the iron molecule to be, again, cleaved and broken so that it can realize its potential. So the iron travels around its world in the bloodstream, carried a lot by the B cells, right? I mean, the red blood cells. And it has 4 oxygens bound to it. And ferritin helps cleave that so that you can receive your iron. Ferritin, again, is a liver, typically, primarily, again, I'm trying to distill it down a little bit, a liver nutrient dependent on the liver secretion hormone that helps iron realize that. So if you're concerned about anemia, don't just get your iron level. Make sure they're checking your ferritin level. And then, Anne, I know because we met on the, and you guys will see this when you watch the request for care, that you were having elevated B in the bloodstream. So what it's telling us is that you're not taking that up and you're not recognizing it and acknowledging it. So I would layer a lot of the eye burn, or maybe the, when you do the heavy metals, I would actually, instead of doing the 10-day cleanse, I would think about doing the pain and inflammation protocol, because that will help you with that particular metabolic pathway a little more efficiently. So you guys, keep your questions flowing, keep really dedicated to your health, keep informing your body, and when you're stuck and if you're struggling, be really gentle and kind to yourself, because it's just communicating in a language that you just haven't quite mastered yet. And that's okay. There might be somebody in our community, in the member community, that's been through exactly what you've been through, that's had success by, adding a success booster or tweaking something in their food schedule. So make sure that you ask those questions, that you lean on this amazing community that we have for support.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of Power on Your Plate with Haylie Pomroy. Please remember to share the amazing science and tools with someone you love. The more we know, the more we all lift our global health together. Visit www.hayliepomroy.com to get notes from today's show and to take your education and health to a new level of success and happiness.
Information on this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for the advice provided by your physician or other healthcare professional, or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging. You should not use the information on this podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease, or prescribing any medication or other treatment. You should always speak with your physician or other healthcare professional before taking any medication or nutritional, herbal, or homeopathic supplement, or adopting any treatment for a health problem. If you have or suspect that you have a medical problem, promptly contact your healthcare provider. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking professional advice because of something you've heard on this podcast. Information provided on this podcast and the use of any products or services purchased as a result of this podcast does not create any type of professional relationship between you and any of the associates affiliated with this podcast. Information and statement regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.